When it comes to breakups, we all tell ourselves stories. We tell ourselves they've moved on. They don't care. They're not even thinking about me. But here's what most people don't realize. Silence is never as simple as it looks. When you apply the no contact rule, when you pull your energy back, stop reaching out, stop chasing answers, it creates space. And in that space, things happen. Things your ex will never admit to you. See, on the surface, they may look fine. They might post a photo, laugh with friends, seem like they've got it all together. But underneath that, there's a storm. Let me tell you exactly what your ex feels, but will never say out loud. Thaws confusion. They expect you to reach out. They expect the old patterns, the late night texts, the I miss you messages, the chasing. But when you go silent, it disrupts the script. Suddenly they're wondering, wait, what's happening? Why aren't they chasing me? Second, curiosity. The human mind hates uncertainty. When you're not available, when you're not feeding them attention, their brain starts asking questions. Are they over me? Have they met someone else? Did they realize they deserve better? That curiosity is powerful. It pulls them back into thinking about you more than they want to admit. Third, reflection. Silence forces people to sit with themselves. Without constant contact, they finally have the space to feel the weight of their decisions, the arguments, the mistakes, the moments they took for granted. And let me be clear, not all exes reflect with maturity, but the space you create by not chasing, it gives them the opportunity to reflect. And sometimes that's when the real regret starts creeping in. Fourth, ego. This is a tricky one. Even if they don't want you back, the idea that you're moving on without them, that stings. It bruises their ego. And while they may never show it, they feel it, especially when you handle your silence with grace, confidence, and self-respect. Finally, fear. Fear that you'll truly move on, that someone else will see your worth, that they lost something they didn't fully appreciate at the time. And let me tell you, that fear, it can be the biggest motivator for them to reach out, to reconsider, or at the very least, to regret. But here's the truth I need you to understand. The no contact rule isn't about games. It's not manipulation. It's self-respect. You're not going silent to punish them. You're doing it to heal, to create clarity, to remind both of you what your standards are, and to give them the space to truly feel the consequences of their choices. Because sometimes the most powerful message you can send is silence. It says, I value myself enough to step back. I refuse to beg for love or attention. If you want me, you'll have to show up differently. And believe me, they feel that. Even if they never say a word, one of the most powerful and underestimated things you can do after a breakup is nothing. Silence, space,
restraint.
Sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest things to actually follow through on. Why? Because your instincts are screaming at you to do the opposite, to reach out, to get answers, to seek reassurance, to remind them of your worth. But the moment you resist that urge, the moment you lean into silence, something interesting happens. You create confusion. See, your ex had a script playing in their mind. They expected things to go a certain way. They thought, they'll message me, they'll chase me, they'll fight for this. And honestly, they expected it because maybe that's what always happened before. It's what most people do. They panic after a breakup. They flood the other person with texts, calls, desperate attempts to fix things. But when you don't play that game, when you go quiet, it disrupts their expectations. Suddenly they're left wondering, why aren't they reaching out? Are they okay? Have they already moved on? Did they realize they deserve better? And let me tell you, that confusion, it's powerful because human beings hate uncertainty. We're wired to seek answers, to close the gaps in our understanding. Your silence becomes a mystery. They can't immediately solve. It forces them to sit with the discomfort of not knowing. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. This isn't about playing games. It's not about punishing them. It's about recognizing that silence is sometimes the loudest statement you can make. It says, I have enough self-respect not to chase someone who let me go. I'm not going to hand over my dignity for the sake of temporary reassurance. If you want to know how I feel, you'll have to come find out. And believe me, they feel that. It unsettles them. It forces them to confront the reality that maybe they're not as in control of the situation as they thought. Because let's be honest, we all like to believe we hold power in a breakup. But when the other person shows restraint, when they handle the ending with grace, silence, and strength, it flips the script completely. Suddenly, your ex isn't just dealing with a breakup, they're dealing with uncertainty. And uncertainty breeds curiosity. Curiosity breeds reflection. Reflection breeds potential regret. But none of that can happen if you're constantly reaching out, explaining, justifying, or begging for attention. Your silence creates the very space that allows their feelings to catch up with them. It disrupts the narrative they told themselves. And in that disruption, realization can finally begin. So, as hard as it feels, remember this. Your silence isn't weakness, it's strength. It's clarity, it's self-respect. And it's often the first quiet step toward turning confusion into awareness, and awareness into change.
Curiosity is a funny thing.
It sneaks up on people when they least expect it. And when you apply the no contact rule, you plant the perfect seed for curiosity to start growing in your ex's mind. See, when you're in constant contact, when you are always available, always explaining, always reaching out, they never had to wonder about you. You were there. They knew where you stood. They knew how you felt. But the moment that stops, the silence, the space, the unknown, it triggers their curiosity. And that curiosity, it's more powerful than you might realize. Suddenly they start asking questions they weren't prepared to ask. Why haven't they texted me? What are they doing? Are they hurting like I am? Or are they fine? Have they met someone new? Did they finally realize they deserve better than how I treated them? And here's the truth. Most people won't admit to these thoughts. Their pride won't let them. Their ego keeps them looking composed on the surface. But inside, the questions grow louder. The curiosity grows stronger. Why? Because human beings hate uncertainty. The unknown drives us crazy. We crave answers, closure, clarity. But your silence denies them that. It's like when you lose your phone signal and suddenly even the most trivial notifications feel urgent. You didn't care 5 minutes ago, but now that you can't have it, you obsess. You wonder, you check more than you ever did before. That's exactly what happens in the mind of your ex. When you go silent, they can't check your emotional availability like they used to. They don't know if you're still hurting. They don't know if you're waiting for them. They don't know anything. And that unknown makes your presence, your energy, even more attractive. Think about it. People want what feels scarce. They value what isn't easily available. They desire what they can't immediately access. And your silence, it creates all of that. But here's the key. It only works when your silence is rooted in strength, not manipulation. You're not ignoring them to play mind games. You're stepping back to protect your peace. You're creating space for clarity for both of you. And in that space, they wonder. They imagine.
They reflect.
And most importantly, they start to miss you for real. Because longing, desire, even regret, those emotions can't exist without curiosity first. They have to wonder what you're thinking before they start feeling what they lost. So if you're in the silence right now, if you're resisting the urge to text, to call, to chase, know this. Curiosity is already working in your favor. It's quietly doing the work that your words never could. Let them wonder. Let the questions grow, because in that unknown is where they finally start to feel the impact of your absence. There's something most people completely underestimate after a breakup. It's the power of silence to create space, not just space for curiosity, but space for reflection. See, when you were still in contact, when there were constant messages, occasional calls, little updates, there wasn't time to really feel anything. It was like emotional noise filling the space where truth could have settled in. But when you apply the no contact rule, the noise stops, and suddenly they're alone with their thoughts. At first, they might not even notice it. They might distract themselves, go out with friends, scroll endlessly on their phone, throw themselves into work. But here's what always happens. The distractions fade. The parties end. The phone goes quiet at night. And then there's nothing left but them and their own mind. And that, my friend, is when the real reflection begins. In that quiet, when no one is watching, they start replaying moments, the good ones, the arguments, the times they pushed you away, the times you showed up for them when they didn't deserve it, the times they underestimated your value. They start to feel the weight of their decisions, often for the first time. See, people don't reflect when they're comfortable. They reflect when there's a void, when there's silence, when there's space. That's why your silence, uncomfortable as it might feel for you, is actually a gift, not just for you, but for them. It gives them the chance to sit with their own behavior without the comfort of your presence softening the edges. And let me be clear, not everyone uses that space wisely. Some avoid it entirely. Some jump into a rebound to cover the discomfort, but others, they finally have to face themselves, the mistakes, the ego, the emotional immaturity, and often that's when the seeds of regret get planted. But here's the beautiful part. You're not there to witness it. You don't need to be, because their reflection, it's not your responsibility. It's theirs. It's private. It's uncomfortable, and it's necessary. The truth is, you can't force someone to realize your worth while you're still chasing them. It doesn't work that way. Sometimes the only thing that wakes them up is your absence. It gives them the mirror they've been avoiding. It forces them to ask the hard questions. And for some, it finally makes them see what they had and what they've lost. But that awareness, that reflection, it only happens when you're strong enough to stay silent, to let the space speak for itself. So while it might feel like nothing is happening, behind the scenes, everything is happening. Let them sit with their choices. Let them feel the silence. Because it's often in that quiet, uncomfortable space where the biggest realizations are born. Let's talk about ego, because whether your ex wants to admit it or not, this plays a huge role in what they're feeling during no contact. See, most people walk away from a breakup believing they hold the upper hand. Maybe they ended things. Maybe they distanced themselves. Maybe they convinced themselves you'd always be waiting in the background, just in case they changed their mind. And as harsh as it sounds, that belief feeds their ego. It gives them the quiet, unspoken comfort of knowing you're still there, available, hurting, wanting them. But when you apply the no contact rule, when you stop showing up, stop reaching out, stop making them the center of your world, that quiet, smug little ego of theirs, it takes a hit. Suddenly they don't feel so certain anymore. Suddenly they realize maybe they misjudged your strength. It bruises their pride to see you handling the breakup with grace. It unsettles them to realize you're not chasing. And whether they show it on the outside or not, on the inside, their ego feels the sting. Now, some people react to that bruised ego with arrogance. They post pictures, they act unbothered, they tell mutual friends they've moved on. But don't be fooled. A loud performance often hides quiet insecurity. Because here's the truth, losing your emotional availability, losing your attention, losing the constant reassurance they secretly counted on, it shakes them. It makes them wonder, wait, do they not care anymore? Are they over me? Was I wrong about how much power I had in this situation? And here's where your strength becomes your greatest asset. See, people expect drama after a breakup. They expect anger, tears, desperation. But when you give them calm, when you give them silence, it confuses their ego. It challenges their assumptions. And in that quiet challenge, they feel the cracks forming in their self-image. Because suddenly, you're not the one left wanting. You're the one standing tall, choosing peace, choosing self-respect, choosing you. And whether their pride lets them admit it or not, that changes how they see you. It plants doubt in their mind. It makes them question their decision. It forces them to see your worth, not through words, but through your actions. Here's the reality. You can't control their ego, but you can control how much space you give it. And when you choose silence, strength, and self-respect over chasing and over explaining, their ego doesn't get fed, their certainty crumbles. And for the first time, they're forced to sit with the possibility that they let go of someone they should have fought for. So while they may never say it out loud, understand this. Your silence isn't just confusing them. It's humbling them. And sometimes that's the only thing that breaks through their pride. Let's get real for a moment. There's one emotion more powerful than love, more unsettling than anger, more motivating than guilt. It's fear. Fear of losing something or someone before you even realize their full value. And when you apply the no contact rule, when you stay strong, silent, focused on yourself, it doesn't just create space. It invites fear to creep into their mind. At first, they may not feel it. They might convince themselves they've moved on. They'll distract themselves, keep busy, maybe even post a few carefully chosen, I'm doing great photos. But here's what's happening beneath the surface. The silence stretches. The days turn into weeks. And slowly their mind starts to wonder, what if they're really over me? What if they've met someone else? What if I pushed away the one person who truly understood me? That's when fear kicks in, because suddenly it's no longer about if you'll move on. It's who with. It's what if they realize their worth and never look back. And let me tell you something, for someone who thought they held all the cards, that fear, it's humbling. It shakes their confidence. It makes them question everything. See, most people operate from the belief that love, especially your love, will always be available. They think they can come back whenever they want. They assume you'll be waiting. But when your actions say otherwise, when your silence shows strength, that belief starts to crumble. They realize you might actually be building a life without them. They imagine someone else seeing your value. They picture you laughing, thriving, connecting, and not missing them. And that image, it stings. It unsettles them. It invites doubt and regret, and yes, fear. But here's the crucial part, that fear doesn't mean they'll act immediately. It doesn't always lead to an apology or grand gesture overnight. But it plants a seed of discomfort, a whisper in the back of their mind that says, you might have just let go of something rare and you can't undo that so easily. That's why your silence is so powerful. Not because it's manipulative, but because it's real. You are moving forward. You are focusing on yourself. You are showing them that access to you isn't guaranteed, and that realization, it fuels their fear. The fear that they've lost someone irreplaceable. The fear that by the time they wake up, you'll already be gone. So as tempting as it feels to break the silence, to remind them of what they're missing, remember this, they already feel it, even if they'll never admit it. And fear, quiet, creeping, unavoidable fear, is often the greatest catalyst for change. Let's get this clear right now. The no contact rule is not a trick. It's not a game. It's not about playing hard to get, trying to manipulate someone or forcing them to chase you. It's about self-respect. It's about boundaries. It's about protecting your energy when your heart is most vulnerable. See, after a breakup, especially one that leaves you confused, hurt, or even rejected, it's easy to slip into reaction mode. You chase closure. You chase answers. You chase validation from the very person who just took your peace away. But here's the truth. No one tells you. Every time you beg for attention after a breakup, you hand your power over. Every desperate text, every late night call, every just one more conversation moment, it chips away at your confidence. It keeps you stuck in a cycle of needing approval from someone who's already shown they can live without you. But when you apply no contact, you break that cycle. You choose yourself. You say, I refuse to beg for love. I refuse to convince someone of my worth. I refuse to chase what isn't meant for me. And listen, that takes courage, because the silence, it's uncomfortable. It leaves space for doubt. It makes you sit with your feelings instead of chasing temporary reassurance. But guess what? That space, as uncomfortable as it feels, is where your power rebuilds. It's where your clarity returns. It's where you remember you don't need to chase love.
You don't need to explain your worth.
The right person, they'll see it and they'll show up. But they can't do that if you're constantly interrupting the silence. They can't feel your absence if you never actually disappear. And that's what no contact really is. It's not punishment for them or for you. It's a reset, a boundary, a quiet but powerful statement that says, I deserve peace. I deserve respect. I deserve to be wanted for who I am, not because I begged for it. And here's the beauty of it. When you stay silent for the right reasons, not to manipulate, but to heal, it does two things. First, it gives you space to focus on yourself, your growth, your happiness, your future. Second, it forces them to face what they lost without your words getting in the way. Because sometimes the loudest message you can send is silence. It speaks to your strength. It protects your dignity, and it invites the right people to show up. Not because you chased them, but because they finally saw your worth for themselves. So remember, no contact isn't a tactic. It's self-respect in action. And that's where real confidence and real love begins.